So we've got a listener request.
I love listener requests.
They're always good, and it's from one of our favourite listeners. It's from the Salty Sea Dog.
The Salty Sea. We have to meet the Salty Sea Dog.
I am desperately waiting to have a beer with the Salty Sea Dog because he is like one of our favourite people. I mean, the ultimate fanboy for this podcast. He keeps feeding us intelligence.
Yeah.
It's genius.
What if it's a girl? Is it a? How do you know it's a he?
He sent me a photo.
Oh, okay. Oh,
No, not creepy at all. Not creepy. All right, okay, creepy. No, it wasn't. He sent me, and look, he doesn't need to send me a photo because after this episode, I, you, and everyone that listens will know how to get photos of Salty Sea Dog should they want one.
Okay.
Now, he sent me this article from The Australian, and it's all about OSINT.
OSINT.
Open Source Intelligence.
Okay.
And funnily enough, Australia is really good at OSINT gear, right? We're really good at collecting it, really good at dealing with it. So I went into a deep dive. I'm really sorry. I spent a lot of time over the last few days reading some very, very dry articles and very dry research papers. Basically, I got into a lot of open source intelligence, and today we're going to talk about how it works.
Okay. Can't wait. You're listening to I Spied, the deep fake of Australian intelligence.
Hello, American soldier boy. I am Jacinta, the beautiful girl from Latvia.
All right, Tom Cruise, we know it's you. Hello and welcome to I Spy. My name's Michelle Stevenson and I'm here with David Callan. And today we're talking about something that I don't know a lot about. I did try doing a little bit of research and reading, but it was a lot of heavy dialogue and it wasn't character driven.
It's very dry.
There's no characters.
But actually there are some great characters in it. Because if you want to go back to open source intelligence, essentially is intelligence produced from publicly available information.
Right.
Sounds pretty simple. And
yes.
It's been a thing since about World War II. That's really when it came into its own, because during World War II, there was this guy called Lord Haw Haw. Did you ever hear of him?
Lord Haw Haw?
Lord Haw Haw.
No.
Germany calling, Germany calling. He was a German propagandist. He was he spoke with a very, very British accent, and he would get on air and go, well, your boys got absolutely hammered on the beaches of Sicily, and all this sort of stuff. He would talk about how the Germans were sinking American ships, and he was basically a propaganda channel. But what happened was British and American intelligence would listen to him because it gave them clues as to what was going on with certain battles. If they didn't get intelligence coming back from these battles, they could find out, look, we're missing a ship. And, we sunk this ship. Well, thank you very much for telling us. We now know what's going on. And it would give them idea of submarine deployments, ship deployments, troop deployments, all that sort of deployment stuff. The other thing that they used to look at, and I really like this, was the price of produce in Paris. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Price of produce in Paris.
Produce in Paris. The price of produce in Paris. So what they would do is they would look at the price of, say, oranges in Paris.
Okay.
Because if the price suddenly shot up, it meant there was a limit in supply, which was an indication that sabotage of, say, train lines, like somebody blew up a train bridge in southern France so they couldn't get the oranges from Spain to Paris, the price would shoot up. So they'd know if they couldn't get the intelligence on the ground, they could get it from the Germans.
Right.
So open source intelligence is a really important part of the puzzle. Now, mostly since World War II, open source intelligence was getting the local paper and sending it back home for it to be translated and read and information gleaned from it. In fact, as somebody said, essentially 80% of all the information that was gathered during the Cold War about Russia was gathered from publications, from periodicals.
Yeah, makes sense.
So really simple stuff. But the thing is, after the Cold War, everyone went, yeah, well, we don't really need it anymore. Don't need open source intelligence. No one cares. It's not that really important. And then this crazy thing happened in the 90s. People started buying computers.
Oh, yeah, the internet.
The internet appeared, all right, and that's when it got really, really crazy. Around about 1990, intelligence services are going, these computers could be a problem or they could be a solution. We're not really sure. And then in 2005, 2 little companies launched that changed the game forever.
Okay.
Those companies are known as Facebook and YouTube.
Well, Facebook particularly.
And a year later, Twitter. So these guys appeared and everyone went, well, this is really interesting. All of these people are just giving us all of this information, but, what are we going to do with it? Until, have you ever heard of the Green Revolution in Iran?
No.
So in 2009, there was an election and Ahmadinejad, he won. Unfortunately, the number of votes he got was terribly skewed.
Yeah.
Really, really badly skewed. And about 1 million people showed up in the middle of Tehran going, and the catchphrase of the protest was, "Where's my vote?" Right? Because I didn't vote for you. Why are you still in power? Now, the thing was, the Americans first went, oh, this could be bad. But then everybody started posting stuff from the protest. And what they realized what was going on with social media, it gave them real-time intelligence in what's known as a denied environment.
Right.
Okay. So somewhere they couldn't go, Tehran, and they couldn't collect intelligence. Suddenly they're gathering tons of intelligence out of Iran because it's coming through on social media. Same thing happened with the Arab Spring. They could literally track people going into the square in Cairo. Was it Tahrir Square? They could literally track them going in through their social media posts because everyone's running around taking photos and I'm going to protest. So this became the big thing. Everyone suddenly realised, oh my God, we really should focus on this. And in fact, intelligence academics basically turned around in the United States and said the biggest bang for your intelligence gathering buck is open source intelligence. So everyone started focusing in on that. Now, let's talk about the different types of intelligence. You've got the OSINT type subtypes of news media, which is obvious, right? Turn on the TV, pick up a newspaper, boom, you got it. Then there's what's called grey literature. I love that. It just sounds really exciting and spunky, but actually it's research papers. The sort of stuff that I really like and you really don't.
You lost me at research papers.
Then you've got long-form social media. Now, it's long-form in pro or short-form in pro. It's long-form social media or short-form social media. So
what's a long-form social media?
Things like blogs, Reddit, Tumblr, things where you're not limited to what you can do.
Yeah.
Where short-form is things like Facebook and Twitter. Okay.
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to sit there, even though you do have those people who go, no one's going to read this, so I want you to prove that I read this. I'm going to put all this information about my entire frickin' life in several paragraphs. And what I want you to do is then copy paste it and then share your own details of your entire frickin' life on Facebook. So these are what are called short form. Now, news periodicals and grey literature are really easy to deal with because the one thing we've now got with intelligence is, my God, there is a shitload of intelligence floating around. Everyone's sharing everything. So with news periodicals and research papers, it's easy. You just put a keyword in a search engine and let the computer do all the work. But the problem is, particularly with short form, is emojis, really crap grammar, really crap spelling, and of course vernacular. And how people, the mood of that vernacular. So I might say, Scott Morrison, top bloke, lols. Now that may be saying, no, I said lols, I'm really sorry. Now that may mean that I'm saying, I think he's a top bloke and he makes me laugh out loud. Yeah. Or I might be saying, yeah, Scott Morrison, great bloke, ha ha. Right, so I'm using it sarcastically. So it becomes what's known as sentiment analysis, where the biggest problem with all of this stuff is actually trying to work out what people really, really mean.
Now, is that because it goes through a filter that isn't a human?
Well, that's the problem. You can't use a machine as the filter. With your longer form stuff, you can. Right?
Yeah, because they look for keywords, yeah.
But when it comes to social media, and also it's very difficult to work out intent. So what they've got is they've got what's called sentiment analysis and stance analysis.
Right.
Where it's like, if we go back through all of your posts, we can have a look at what all this means and how it actually reflects on what you're trying to say. And then it comes down to things called relationship analysis and noding and influence. So you are an Instagram peddler. That is correct.
I participate on Instagram. It's not a big thing for me though. I'm not really on it much.
Yeah, right. Well, there are people that are Instagram influencers. Well, there are influencers.
Yes, that's not me.
Right. It's not me. I just put pictures of the Sydney Harbour Bridge up every second day.
Yep.
But there are all of these different people that have influence. Now, of course, no one really cares about the guy who was a trainer who then went on to Love Island and then went back to being a trainer but posts lots of photos of himself flexing on a beach.
Yeah.
No one. That's not an intelligence threat. But if you have, say, a politician who is quite controversial and is using short form media, social media, to promote a certain attitude, then that's an inroad to work out who that person is influencing. So in the case, and this comes down to like the Melbourne protests that we've just had over the last week. When you look at that, say Craig Kelly's posting a lot of stuff. He's literally part of a node. He's like the center of the density of this node of information. Now, as that information parcels out, we're not only looking at the information that he's sending out, we're looking at the information that's being sent to him. So in an intelligence world, Craig Kelly is not the target. Craig Kelly is literally the focus of where we can spot the target we're looking for in that situation. So something like a right-wing group or an extremist right-wing group that is using Craig Kelly as a conduit to get their information out into a broader public sphere, that's the sort of thing you look at when you're looking at open source intelligence. But it's really difficult to play with.
Yeah, because there's speaking of like, nodes, there is this whole thing about how in the US, particularly with the anti-vax rhetoric and, a lot of dissemination of pro-Trump stuff, that there's like literally only 4 or 5 people who send this stuff out and then it filters out to the rest of the world. And so
it's interesting. The interesting thing about how they actually filter it out to the world is the nodes that they pick to push it through.
Yes.
So with anti-vax, there's a great article. If I can find it, I'll definitely post it on Twitter at iSpy Podcast. And it's basically talking about how QAnon has literally hijacked the wellness movement because, it starts, you go into the wellness movement, and I did it as an experiment last night. I just went, I'm going to go on and I'm going to go meditation for men. Yeah. Because, I need peace in my life. When I'm not in my blanket fort, I get very stressed. So I looked up Wellness for Men, go in there, have a look, and the next thing I get pushed into an anti-vax thread, and from that I get pushed into a right-wing thread. And it was insidious at how quickly it happened. Yeah,
so a lot of them, they have wide reach, like a lot of followers on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.
Yep.
And so it's easy for them to disseminate information and misinformation. And another thing is that they tend not to get banned, or they'll get banned from one, but they won't get banned from the other. So they still have like the capacity to reach people.
There is that. And the other thing is they just re-identify.
The main ones are specifically really well known, like Robert Kennedy Jr. is one of them. Like there's about 12 of them and they're really well known and they have hardcore followers. It's kind of what they did with Pete Evans. You know how they ended up like silencing him?
Yeah. I didn't have any objections with that. It had nothing to do with free speech. I just found him a little creepy and weird.
Yeah, he was a bit creepy and weird. That whole video with the horse, I never understood that.
It was the $15,000 light that was going to cure COVID that really got me. But anyway, look, we could talk about Pete Evans for ages, but there's an actual podcast that does that really well.
Oh, is there?
Called the Conditional Release Program. Listen to it. It's genius.
Right.
But this becomes the big problem with open source intelligence, particularly through short form social media, is how do we know who this person is? How authentic and how reliable is it as a source? Because there was an old joke at ASIO, what sort of sauce does a spy put on his pie?
Tomato? I don't know.
A secret and reliable sauce, right?
Okay.
Well, the thing with...
I can't believe that. Of course that is an ASIO joke. It's so bad.
We're all dads at ASIO.
Oh, my God. It is like, it's where dad jokes go to die, isn't it?
That's right. Now, the thing is, a lot of intelligence, like back in the day, a lot of intelligence officers, before OSINT really became the thing, they were rejecting it out of hand because it's not collected clandestinely, so therefore it's unreliable. That was their first port of call, was it's unreliable because it's in the public sphere. We don't know what we're being told. And that in and of itself is a really important point to remember, in that you don't know, you really can't tell the identity of the person. You really don't know who they are. You're literally relying on their honesty. Now, there are certain tools that you can use to figure this sort of stuff out, who the person really is, all that sort of stuff. And they're called COTS. Commercial off-the-shelf tools. Okay. And the only problem with using them in the intelligence world is they're a commercial tool. So they're designed for businesses to seek out customers, not to analyze intelligence. Now, interestingly enough, there was one called Topsy, which was an indexed archive of every tweet ever made. Okay. So if you wanted to search it, you just get Topsy, you go online and you search. And boom, you got it. You could find any tweet you wanted. And then suddenly it disappeared. It just stopped. It went offline. No one could get to it. No one knew why. Until everyone realized, oh, hang on. Apple just bought Topsy.
Oh, right. Yep.
They let it run for 2 years and then shut it down. And then they turned around and went, if you want it, it's all monetized now.
Right.
So literally you pay tweet for tweet. So these are the sort of things you've got. These are the tools. I had, and here's an interesting thing. I had a bit of a scare. I was walking across the Harbour Bridge after my lunch with my ex-spy friends, and my phone rang.
Yep.
And it was a listener who rang and went, hey, man, I just thought I'd give you a call and we could catch up. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I know. I bet I know how you got your phone number.
How?
Through Facebook.
No.
Oh, because someone else did this, that a lot of people put their add their phone numbers to Facebook as a security thing, and that people can put in your name and your phone number can pop up.
Well,
or they can put in your...
He did it through LinkedIn. And he said, I've got a tool, because I work in sales, I've got a tool that allows me to go into LinkedIn and find phone numbers.
No.
Yeah. Now, I sort of went, okay. Now, I was a little shocked. And if you're listening, I was a little shocked. I said, no, that's cool. But then, funnily enough, my son turned around to me and went, that sounds very creepy. And I went, yeah, actually, it does.
Well, so, what did you talk about? What did he call you about? I want to know the details.
Well, unfortunately, I was walking across a harbour bridge, so it was really noisy. And he called me a second time about a week later and said, want to catch up for a drink. So to be perfectly honest, I'm going to go and have a drink with him.
Okay.
And have a chat with him because he's an interesting guy and he's got some really interesting views.
This whole podcast is just a ruse for you to get friends, isn't it?
Yes, I'm the low. I live in a blanket fort.
Sad.
Even my wife goes, go to your fort. Yes, Mum. That was a Freudian slip.
You still haven't left that fucking fort. I'm here. I'm out in the real world and you are still in your fort. Every time I look at you, you're in that fort.
Yeah, that's right. Screw it. COVID was the best thing that happened to me. It turned into a reclusive hermit. I live here and I count bottle caps. That's all I've got in my life and collect whiskey. So anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. Okay. So look, as I said at the start of the episode, we're really good at AUSCENT because we've got this little organisation called the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, ASPI. It's a Commonwealth organisation, but funnily enough, the Australian government does not pay for most of it.
No, because it's a non-partisan think tank.
Well, not only is it a non-partisan think tank, a lot of its budget comes from foreign governments that pay for its services because they're really, really good at what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, remember we talked about the guy who basically mapped American bases using US soldiers' Fitbit information. Well, as soon as he did that, literally, ASPI turned around and went, you are with us now, boy. And he works for Australia, for that organisation, for ASPI. He's this really talented guy. And essentially, Australia is doing the right thing. ASPI are doing a really good thing where they basically, whenever they see talent, they just grab it. And they've gotten themselves inside the Chinese firewall, right? What they call the Great Firewall, which basically limits Chinese interaction with the global net. They've gotten inside it and they're picking up open source material to the point where the leaked document from the Chinese embassy with 14 complaints at Australia basically turned around and they said, yeah, we don't like what ASPI are doing. That was one of the Chinese complaints, is you got to stop picking on China.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, interestingly enough, on my other podcast called The Stuff Between, we literally have just spoken about incels. And incels, do you know what incels are?
Oh, yeah. I've met a few and they just creep me the hell out.
Yeah, involuntary celibates. But ASPI, the reason why I bring this up is because ASPI have basically spoken about how they should be considered a terrorism group and have done some work on it. And so it's interesting because we're just talking about that, so it's a good kind of segue.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is what ASPI does. As you said, it's a non-partisan group. So they're not interested in political gain or anything like that. They're interested in getting intel out to people as quickly and as conveniently as possible. And they're really, really good at it. It's like they're sort of setting the benchmark. So it's nice to see that
really
little
good
Australian industry is doing it. But, I mean, the flip of this is how open source intelligence is now being used to catfish. Like there's a great article. My son actually mentioned it to me just before I walked into the blanket fort. And he said, you should talk about this. And we went and checked it. And basically it's called NATO dupes own troops with fake Tinder account. And essentially there's this story that came out that during an exercise in Scandinavia, there was a website created with a glamorous Latvian girl who basically got to talking with a bunch of soldiers, and then there was another website that was set up where soldiers can talk to each other about what life is like in the army. And then essentially these guys were talking about pretty much everything they wanted to do, not knowing, what it was like to be in the army and what kind of weapons they were using and where they were stationed and all that sort of stuff, not knowing it was a fake account. It was a fake website.
But have we not learned anything? Don't trust anyone on the internet. I don't understand.
No, but that's the point. We haven't learnt anything. And it was one of the things that came out with the problem with, they're calling it second gen. All the online intelligence that they're collecting now, they're calling second generation OSINT because it's not the old style stuff, which is getting a newspaper and getting someone to translate it and then handing it on, right? It's basically going onto social media. And one of the problems they have with intelligence officers trying to analyse social media sites is they're actually instructed to keep a low profile on social media so they don't understand the nuance.
Yep.
So things like vernacular and emojis and all that sort of stuff and GIFs, it throws them because it's like none of this makes any sense to me. It's not the way I would construct intelligence. Therefore, I don't understand how to find the intelligence within it.
It's the boomer way of looking at things.
Yeah, essentially every spy is a boomer until about now. They're all getting unboomered. Like me, I'm getting unboomered.
and before anyone says it's when I say boomer is not an age, it's a state of mind.
It is. I totally agree with it being a state of mind because the older you get, the boomery you get too.
You do, and you get more conservative, I will say. That is one thing
Unless
I've learned.
you're me, and then you just become...
They just become like this whole... I can't even with you. Anyway,
you just become a crazed man living planning a revolution from a blanket fort. By the way, when I say revolution, the O is a smiley face emoji. That'll confuse them. They have no idea what's going on now. Here's the other thing. Things like this podcast is very difficult for them to actually get intelligence from. One, because
we talk gibberish.
We talk too quickly for them. It's like, and boomers find it very hard to listen to young folk like us.
Yeah. What did he say?
Embarrassing silence. Yeah. What? I don't understand a word it's saying.
What are those words they're using?
Now, one of the other interesting things, and this comes to something I want to talk about in another episode, but they're talking about in the Australian article about ASPI, and I will post that article, and you'll need an Australia subscription to the Australian to read it. But one of the interesting...
Oh my God, you see, now this is hilarious because the fact that you're even saying you need a subscription to the Australian to read it, is it worth it for you to sell your soul like this?
Not really, no.
Because I know I read the Australian. I have a subscription, but it's very funny just to see you go.
Well, I have a subscription now simply because it's like, again, it's a source. Now, the fact that it's hidden behind a firewall doesn't really... I believe it's $1 a week for the first 4 weeks. And then you cancel your subscription and never go back.
Here we go, yeah.
But there's that whole thing. It's like, it's a source of intelligence. It's a source of information, therefore I want to read it.
Yeah.
Do I agree with the sentiment expressed in it? No, that's not why. I don't read it for the sentiment. I read it for the information.
But yes, that's how all news should be consumed anyway. But
exactly.
Yes, go ahead.
You don't read it for loyalty. You read it because it's got the story you want to read.
Yes, exactly.
Now, one of the things that they talk about in this is how they've got translators, Chinese translators, and how difficult it is for intelligence to get Chinese translators.
Yeah.
And there's a great article that I read in The Atlantic. Catherine Murphy posted it today, and basically talking about how autocratic governments are winning. The interesting thing about it is China, basically, if, say, ASIO approached a member of the Chinese community in Australia to say, we need an interpreter, will you do it?
Yeah.
A lot of them are really reticent to do it because they're expecting the Chinese government to go, if you do that, grandma and grandpa back home are going to wind up in a work camp.
Wow.
So they're really, really hesitant about it. And China is being exceptionally proactive in discouraging the diaspora to get involved in intelligence gathering for the other side, which is, understandable. But it's this thing, we all thought the internet will set us free. We'll have all this information. We'll know everything we need to know and everything will be perfect. What we forgot is people can plug so much rubbish in.
Yeah.
Right. Which goes back to this great article about NATO duping its own troops to the point where they had soldiers ordering clothing online, giving their bank details and their home addresses in the US to a fake website. The thing I love most about this article is it's the only record of this event ever happening, and it was published in the Russia Today. So again, it's a little bit of a Lord Haw-Haw moment where this could have happened. This is absolutely perceivable that this kind of catfishing goes on. And a government would do it to go, guys, we're telling you not to share this shit online.
Yeah.
But the great thing is, in it only being Russia Today posting it, it immediately makes you go, hang on a minute, is this real or is this a double catfish?
Yeah, I think one of the things I find really frustrating, particularly with the social media element, is there is ways around this. We could end catfishing, we could end the trolling, we could end all this just by making people provide proof of who they are.
Exactly.
Now, I know that there are reasons why that Twitter likes to go into, you know, there are places like China where, you know, the Chinese people who want to have access to the social media don't want to have to be known, and I get that.
Yep.
But, you know, I do think at some point we're going to have to validate every single person's account to everything.
And as soon as we do that, we're going to have a protest of people going, but my freedom to not tell you who I am is, you're denying my freedom. So this
What have
is
you got to hide, I would say? What do you have to hide?
Exactly. Well, that is always my point.
But here's the thing. You don't have to use your social media handle doesn't have to be who you are. It just has to be that you can only have one account, and that if anything goes down, Twitter knows exactly who you are because you've had to show identification.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to get on social media and say who you are.
No. Though I do, to the point where people call me when I'm walking over the harbour bridge.
Through LinkedIn.
Through LinkedIn.
When was,
And you know what?
which when was
It
the
was
last
at the
time an out-of-work actor used LinkedIn, by the way?
Look, I'll be honest with you. At the time, admittedly, I'd had quite a few glasses of wine.
You're like, yeah, let's go for a drink.
And I was like, sounds great. And then it was when my son turned around and went, that sounds a bit weird.
It is
and
weird.
then I sort of thought about it and went, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I put myself out there.
I bet you admire his tenacity.
He collects East German intelligence gathering equipment.
Oh, see, now here's the thing.
Him.
He had you at collecting of East German intelligence.
He had me at small reel-to-reel tape machines.
You fucking weirdo. Yep,
by the way, please don't be offended if I brought you up in this podcast because
No, it's great.
I respect and admire you. Just next time, send me a message via Twitter. Don't call me
Text
when
me.
I'm half drunk on a bridge.
No, it's great. I think it's brilliant that he found your phone number. I think it's going to be so great that you're going to go out and have a beer with him, and I hope that you don't get murdered.
Oh, that's why I'm going to do it in a very public place.
Yeah.
And you're coming with me.
No.
Yeah,
not
you are.
happening. Nope.